Hi, how are you doing? My name is Florencia. I am the founder of Ullvuna. Ullvuna is a brand focused on pin loom weaving. I design different tools like pin looms, patterns, books, digital content like videos, online classes to inspire and promote creativity for life. So today's webinar is about making mandala hats. Welcome and let's start. Have you ever tried mandalas? Have you ever colored any mandalas or have woven them or crocheted them? You know, these circles with a lot of colors and symbols, different patterns, very cute, very relaxing, like a therapy. The great news I am bringing to you today is that you can whip them, but you can whip them not only in the circular pin looms, which is the usual, you can whip them in square pin looms, like the Kayu. So, what circular pin looms I was talking about? These plastic ones or also these ones. You can make these mandalas, but also turn them into berets or hats, okay? This is the usual, but my invitation is to make them in square pin looms like my own tremen and also the Kayu. Okay, so in the Kayu you can choose the size of square. For example, you have this one which is 12 by 12 inches, or you can go and make the smaller one and make like a very tiny mandala by arranging the pins in those circles. So in case you don't have the Kayu or don't have the tremen, you can make it on your own with spare materials you can find at home, like pieces of wood and also acrylic pins. There's another video in my YouTube channel where you can find the step-by-step instructions to make your own pin loom. Okay? So you want to know which are those mandalas I'm talking to you about? This one, for example, you know, circular one, and then it becomes beret. And then you have this one, which I made with a knitting finishing, okay, this hat. And then you have this other one, okay, also with a mandala. Would you like to start? So how this mandala process works? Well, first you have to make a warping layer, okay? This is the warping layer, and then you make the weft or you weave, like this one, which is a plain weaving. To make the warping layer, you may use number 4 DK or worsted yarn, okay? 100% cotton, which is quite hard, difficult to cut. This is the ideal yarn to use, ideal thickness and also ideal composition, but you can try out different kinds of yarns, but when you have enough experience. What other yarns? I recommend first trying variegated yarns because it is easier to have this wonderful colorful effect without having to change color yarn all the time to make a lot of knots, okay? This is the easier way to do this. For example, in this case, I used the yarn I was showing you, which is 100% cotton, and then I used same thickness, or maybe number 5 instead of 4, okay, just a bit difference in thickness, and used a variegated yarn. So I have this colorful effect, but I didn't have to make any knots, okay, just as the beginning one and the end one. But the fun thing is trying out different thicknesses, so you have different depth in your woven piece. You have like reliefs, you have you can play with textures. For that reason I use thin yarns, but also thick ones like bulky and super bulky. Also I play a lot with colors. So for example, if I used a variegated yarn with 3 tones, like in this case it has terracotta, yellow and turquoise, then I tried using the same colors separate, okay, but thicker, okay. Then so I have a interesting texture in just one row and that way it has this mandala effect with different circles of color. So if you want to make a hat like this one, I recommend using the Kayu or any 12 by 12 inches pin loom. Remember that the distance between the pins has to be equal in the square pin loom that you use. That way you will have like a big circle to start your beret. If you use a smaller pin loom, you will have like a baby beret, or maybe you just can make coasters or smaller things like decorations. So I am recommending using a 12 by 12 inches pin loom, but today in this exercise I'm going to show you, we're going to use the Tremen, which is 8 by 8 inches pin loom, just for the purpose of this exercise, to make this very quick and you can see the result. Okay, so let's start. To start the warp layer, make a slip knot and position it in the upper right corner, then pull the yarn down, wrap the pin in the left corner, pull the yarn up, wrap the pin from right to left, and then pull the yarn down, where you're going to be wrapping pins from left to right. When you get to the corners, it is time to continue in different directions. In the right side, you go up, and in the left side, you go down, wrapping the pins in the same direction. When you meet the first tail, you untie the first knot and make a knot between the last tail, which you have cut, and the first one, wrapping both pins. The warp layer is now finished. Now we're going to make the mandala by weaving with a thicker yarn, in this case a variegated one. Thread the yarn needle and start going 2 by 2, over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2, and so on. This is called plain weaving. Work near the pins so you clearly see what you're doing. Freely turn your pin loom in order to weave cosily. Don't pull the yarn until you make one complete row. Once you have completed a row, now do the opposite on the previous row. If you went over, now go under. That is plain weaving. Try always to make a perfect circle. take the tail to the back and continue weaving. You won't get lost if you always work near the pins. Now that you have made several rows of plain weaving, it is time to change colored yarn and maybe use a thicker one. Combine with the colors of the variegated yarn, but this time using solid colors. Measure a big piece, cut it, thread the yarn needle, and we're going to go over 4 and under 4 by 4. So this time we will be making a thicker, more textured row. This is the way we give shape to our mandala. Now that you have finished a whole row, you can continue with the same colored yarn or cut it and thread another colored yarn. We are doing now the opposite than the previous row. Plain weaving, 4 by 4. So as we want this yellow row to be very noticeable, now we're going to use again the thinner variegated yarn. And again do plain weaving 2 by 2. So you can continue until you reach the pins with more colors or using the same, maybe changing stitches. In this case, we're just going to make a few more stitches of plain weaving and then remove the piece from the loom. So before removing the piece from the loom, you're going to cut a few warping rows and tie 2 and 2, and then go to the opposite corner and tie another 2, and that way we're going to keep our circle in good shape. It won't shrink or be deformed if we do this. Otherwise, just remove the whole piece and make the knots. Make all pending knots so the circle stays the same. From those knots, you're going to take the stitches to start the hat, knitted or crocheted. As this original hat I made using the same knots, you have to make yours. So, now that you know how to make a woven mandala in a square pin loom, you just have to make the finishing, which can be crocheted or maybe knitted, okay? It depends on the technique you know better, okay? In this case it's crocheted, in this case it's knitted. The thing is, you have to take the stitches around and just start your own technique. Try it out, your hat, so you see if it fits you, or you have to add more stitches in the rows or skip a few. Okay, so it's quite easy. It's just about the creativity you put on it. Okay, so make your mandala, try it out, start your crochet or knitting finishing, and I would love to see what you get. I hope you like this video, and I would love to see your resulting piece. See you in another webinar. Bye bye!